All the Russian-foot bikers were wiped out. They thought they had outsmarted the enemy, but instead ran into a barrage of fire from the Ukrainian military. 50 occupiers gone without a trace. Buggies and ATVs couldn't save them. The fierce revenge of the armed forces of Ukraine catches up even with the fastest cowards. The new tactics of the enemy generals have failed. These scenes of grand humiliation for Putin's arrogant soldiers are already being discussed online. Watch this unique, shocking video right now.
In these shots, the occupiers are arriving at combat positions on motorcycles and buggies. This is a relatively new but already widespread enemy tactic, our defenders say. In this way, the enemy tries to gain an advantage in speed and maneuverability, confuse drone operators and increase the expenditure of weapons.
When 30 or 20 men arrive in a single vehicle, we destroy that one vehicle and immediately take out, say, 30 men at once. That is, whoever managed to scatter, we finish them off and that's it. But when they come in one or two at a time on motorcycles and they ride in these sort of columns, well, not really columns, sometimes it's 5 or 6 motorcycles at once, they scatter. So in one sortie you might be able to destroy one vehicle, right? But by the time you reload, the others have already scattered into the tree lines. That's their, well, the enemy's ingenuity. They make use of that. That's a priority.
A fighter from the Heavenly Retribution Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 54th Separate Mechanized Brigade, which is currently operating in the Donetsk region, shares how to stop enemy assaults. Before the war, the man was a lawyer. After the start of the full-scale invasion, he joined the armed forces of Ukraine. He operated vampire night drones. Now he mainly works with FPV drones.
You basically prepare each drone individually. For yourself, you flash it, set it up, so it can fly. There's a ton of pre-flight work. Then you actually fly it yourself. That is, during the day, you see everything, as they say, from a first-person perspective. That is, when you fly up to the enemy, to some piece of equipment, you see everything. Well, if the video is good, not glitching, no interference, then you can even see their last looks. And that's, well, pretty cool.
Our interviewee does not hide the fact that the enemy currently has the advantage both in terms of equipment and the number of soldiers. In such conditions, holding positions is only possible through the effective work of drone operators.
During one of the recent assaults, when I was at the position, not a single enemy landing party, there were about 50 or 60 of them who landed, came in, left. I counted around 50 to 60 people in our direction. We eliminated all 50 or 60 of them, and the infantry didn't fire a single shot from small man arms. That is, we simply didn't let them get close to our infantry. The infantry didn't even have to reach for their rifles.
The soldier says the footage we see in news reports, enemy equipment exploding, fighters destroying enemy headquarters and ammunition depots, is actually the result of careful planning and the high-quality work of usually several drone operator crews. And if there aren't enough strike kits, some missions may end up not being completed at all.
Unfortunately, well, FPV kamikaze drones have their priorities. One, yes, we're more maneuverable, but compared to night drones, we have some drawbacks. But we can't carry as much explosive payload. It's about 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos, and 1 kilo or 1.5 kilos isn't enough to destroy equipment. Even if it's a shaped charge, you still need to finish it off with another hit or two. You understand that if you have, say, 20 or 30 of them at your position, you try not to fly out for non-priority targets. If you already have, say, 30 or 40 at your position, you realize that you can use about 10 drones to, well, dig out some foxhole with pilots or infantry or destroy some enemy equipment.
The BRO fighter emphasizes the effectiveness of the Ukrainian army's operations directly depends on the quantity and quality of equipment and drones, and there is always a need for them, though at the front. Veronika Widmecka, Podrobici, Inter-TV channel, Marathon, United.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
News.
Africans, Indians, Nepalis, Chinese, Colombians, Koreans. And that's far from the full diversity of the Russian army. Putin is gathering soldiers for his powerful army almost by putting out classified ads. International recruiting for the slaughter. That's the only way they plug the gaps at the front. The Russians are exhausted. Has Putin really started hunting for men all over the world now? We'll go into more detail about this in our report.
They come from Asia. Well.
Boom, 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 boom.
And from distant Africa.
Tell me again, where did you come from? Senegal. Senegal, yes.
There are also those who were born nearby, but now fight against Ukraine for money.
Where are you from?
Vitebsk.
Belarus, right?
Yes.
And what did they pay you? What did they pay? What did they promise?
200.
200,000.
200.
I see. And did you get the 200,000?
I got it.
The Russians are actively recruiting mercenaries for their war of aggression.
As of this spring, we can say that there are about 48, well, as of today, let's say about 50 to be more precise, countries around the world from which mercenaries have come to fight as part of the Russian Federation against Ukraine.
Among them are not only Russian allies, CSTO countries, and former members of the Soviet Union. They are looking for mercenaries everywhere, even in the most remote corners of the world.
We know about residents from African countries. Various ones. It's hard for me to say whether there are more from Congo or, say, Mali. We just say Africans. We know about Nepalese, Indians. Recently, we've seen Chinese, we've seen Colombians, Cubans, residents of Latin American countries.
And they're also not opposed to involving citizens from those countries they consider hostile in the war.
We've even seen Americans and various others. We've seen Europeans too. And of course, we're talking about dozens of people, not hundreds or thousands, dozens, but, well, that's quite a telling fact.
They lure foreigners in the same way as always, with blood-soaked rubles and grand promises.
These are people who, first and foremost, are trying to solve their own financial problems, although there are certain individuals who join for ideological reasons, supporting the Russian Federation.
But there are very few of them.
As for those foreigners who are already in Russia, they are blackmailed and intimidated. Usually these are so-called labor migrants, who are mostly from Asia.
First, they start putting pressure on the person. If they are in Russia, saying that you have violated some conditions of your stay in Russia, that they will put you in prison, deport you, or ban you from entering Russia. But you can fix this if you sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense. Plus, we'll even give you extra money on top of that.
By the beginning of 2025, we know by name at least 101 Syrians, 101 Serbs, 170 Turkmens, 1,028 Cubans, and 1,110 Uzbeks who are fighting on Russia's side. But how many mercenaries are still fighting in Russia's war against Ukraine remains unknown. Vlad Velichko, We Are Ukraine, Marathon United News.
The Russians became overconfident and got a powerful slap from the Ukrainian armed forces. Sappers cut off the enemy's air supply and stopped enemy assaults near Pokrovsk, a fierce rout of the enemy live on air. Mines and decoys become a real trap for the suicide soldiers. Our guys acted with lightning speed. More about the work of the warriors who prepare surprises for the Russians and then vanish like a shadow in our report right now.
You see, we found some drones. This isn't the first time. There are a lot of them. We take from them everything we need. Spare parts, their designs, we study them and use them.
And it will work for us.
Of course, naturally.
Kevin is the youngest Wolverine in the 68th Jaeger Brigade. He is 18 and works as a sapper scout. He says he's proud to carry out missions in places where others don't dare to go.
Right now, we're keeping things moving here.
Kevin is turning the area into an impregnable fortress to make it harder for the enemy to advance and to reliably protect our positions.
My first mission was to set up non-explosive barriers so that in the future we could save the lives of our guys. Non-explosive barriers stop both infantry, metals, and vehicles. This can include barbed wire and entanglements.
The Pokrovsk direction, which the Rangers are defending, remains one of the most difficult areas on the front. The Russian occupiers are trying to break through into the Dnipropetrovsk-Nosar region and are pushing to gain control over the Pokrovsk-Mirnograd-Kostiantynivka highway. Here's what the soldiers of the 68th Brigade have to say.
Pokrovsk. May 13th, we are conducting reconnaissance. Well, how should I put it, the situation? The so-called truce that everyone was talking about. There is no truce at all. Let me show you something. The entire sector, there's nothing left intact. Not a single thing. That's the situation, gentlemen. The war goes on.
Combat engineers and scouts are clearing mines from the roads to allow our troops to advance, and they're also setting up booby traps to prevent the occupiers from moving forward.
When we worked during the day, it was still relatively safe. But when the mission required us to go out at night, we had to work as close as 700 meters from the enemy. Every night we went out on missions, setting up entanglements in the fields, and accordingly, for the vehicle to get there, it would stop 4 kilometers away from the work site. And then we would walk another 3 kilometers on foot. We carried all the materials by hand. We would leave for the whole night at 8 in the evening and return at 6 in the morning.
Sappers use a variety of engineering equipment and munitions to create mine-explosive barriers that inflict significant losses on the occupiers.
So that the enemy can't just break through with a direct assault when they launch an attack. So they can't break through like that. We mine the field so that tanks can't get through. Similarly, all sorts of barriers are set up in front of the infantry.
More than once, while working, the Rangers came under both artillery and mortar fire.
There was a time when we came under artillery fire. It was close.
That was while you were working, right? And what were you doing at that moment?
Well, we were putting up all barbed wire barriers. Well, it wasn't a pleasant feeling, but the guy said we went through our baptism by fire.
In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian forces attack in small infantry groups, using ATVs, motorcycles, and even bicycles. The Motanka barriers set up by the sappers are a big help in stopping the occupiers.
It's practically invisible. And when they're driving at a speed of even 30 or 40 kilometers per hour, well, he hit the wire entanglement and that was it. The motorcycle stayed right there.
This barely noticeable iron entanglement stops enemy vehicles, especially by tangling up their mine rollers.
The entanglement itself weighs 25 kilograms. You need to, well, in one night, it also depends. If nothing is flying overhead, then you can set up about 25 of them. And all of this has to be carried by hand as well. Well, it's not easy work.
So that our troops can advance and the enemy has no chance to get through, the sappers are out there every day on the front lines. They say they'll do everything possible to protect their own and prevent the enemy from advancing.
If we start giving up now, territory like this, the enemy will just realize that we can be pushed and they'll think, let's press a little harder, and they'll give it up themselves. And that's exactly what we can't allow to happen.
From Donetsk region, Marina Smolova, Alexander Petrovsky, we, Ukraine,